Because, and how many acres do you have?
It's 5.3 acres, but what you're going to look at today, what I'm growing in, is half an acre. Everything, the orchard, the garden, everything is 1/2 acre.
Yeah. You heard of Paul Stamens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do the practical, what Paul Stamens, says scientific.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that's the beautiful thing.
Well, I'm just copying nature. This is what happens in nature.
And I don't know how you quote so much. I can't remember any of the Bible that way.
Well, memorizing scripture saved my memory.
Oh, really?
I destroyed it with mescaline and acid, LSD and mescaline.
Yeah.
And as I memorized scripture, I got my memory back.
Oh, really?
The Bible says it renews your mind.
Yeah.
It really does.
That's funny, because I went to UC Berkeley, and the same thing over there. Acid, mescaline, ecstasy.
Yeah. Well, I was in Vietnam. I got lied to by my government, and I became, angry. And so I flipped to the other side, and I just did everything opposite but what was interesting is that the only thing I couldn't forget was Scripture. And God used the Bible, with Scripture, to bring me back. And as I memorized Scripture, it renewed my mind.
I'm Catholic, and what's always scared me in life is hell.
Well, it should.
Yeah.
Eternity has no exit.
Yeah.
Eternity has no exit. There's no getting out.
But like you're saying, that choose God rather than
Oh, yeah.
the evil,
Yeah, he wants to, he created heaven for us to have an incredible future. And he paid a huge price for us to get there. It's a shame not to take advantage of it.
Well, I'm very glad I met you. I just barely saw your movie yesterday.
Well, thank you.
I had to come out here.
Yesterday?
Yesterday.
You know what amazed me? That film was made 11 years ago.
Really?
11 years ago. And people are just seeing it for the first time.
Yep. No problem.
I love God. He's awesome, man. He's just incredible how he does stuff.
But I had to come down here.
Well, I'm glad you did. Now, is anybody growing strawberries?
Yeah.
How do these look?
Great. Yep.
You see where they're growing?
In the shade.
In the shade under the tree. I love it. And they're thriving. It's not like they're struggling.
Right.
And they were full of berries this June. The June berries, because the ever-bearing berries don't taste good. They don't. They have more berries. They don't have the flavor, but the June berries and these are just incredible flavor. And it's just phenomenal how they do. So are there any gardeners here? Come over here. I want you to identify a plant. A garden plant. What's that plant right there in front of that rhododendron, that green little clump? Right there in front of you. What is that?
I honestly don't know.
Go, come on, you gardeners. This is a garden plant.
Which one are we looking at?
That small little clump of green. Okay. You know why you can't identify it? Because nobody's growing it.
Oh.
Because they think you can't. You know what that is? That's wasabi.
Oh. Really?
And wasabi only grows in nature, in full shade, in standing water.
Oh, that's right.
I want you to get how powerful these wood chips are. This is getting no water. It's in wood chips, and it gets a lot of sun. Wow. Check out the leaf. Yeah, the flavor is it's not as hot as the root.
It isn't?
It's not, but it's you can tell it's wasabi. It's spicy, and it's really good.
How old is this plant?
It's 6 years old. I just whack it down every year to the ground.
That tastes good.
And it's been here 6 years with no attention.
That's amazing.
Wood chips are amazing. This is what I want you to get.
Wow.
It covers all the bases. It meets the plant's every need. It is just awesome.
Now, is it possible to do watercress, or does it really have to have water? I mean, does it have to be in a watercress?
You can do anything in it.
Okay. So watercress would be fine here too?
It's fine. There's nothing that won't grow here.
Okay.
You know what when we get to the herb garden, I'm growing wasabi in front of my blueberries.
Oh.
Wow.
You know what I grow right next to it? Is sage.
Nice.
Are you hearing me? I had to ask the Creator to talk to me because I couldn't wrap my brain around it. Sage grows in deserts with no water. And wasabi grows in standing water. I'm growing them side by side and they're thriving. Wow. You know what he told me? It made me cry. He says there's enough airspace in the wood chips for the sage to hang out in the open spaces and avoid the water. But if wasabi wants the water, it goes, but they have the option. I just started bawling. God made this environment so perfect that you can grow everything in the same place. And the pH issue is really cool. In my herb garden, I have blueberries. Right next to it, I have lavender, both thriving. Lavender wants to grow in an alkaline environment. Blueberries wants to grow in an acid environment. But you know what the pH is in wood chips? 7.0, the number of God in perfect center. And what I get when you have an environment of center, everything's happy. It doesn't matter whether I like acid or alkaline, but at center, we're all good. And I love, you see, these demonstrations in nature just reveal the character of God. It shows how ordered He is, how everything's in perfect balance. It's huge. And I'm so loving that all His characteristics, all His principles are seen in nature, all of them. You read that verse in Romans 1 that sounds like a contradiction. The invisible attributes of God are clearly seen by the things He's made, so no one has any excuse not to know God. Everything about God's character is revealed in nature. It is so beautiful. It's powerful. Yeah. And that's why He put us in the garden up front, was to get to know Him. Because that's where He shows up. And you know He didn't have plan B? You know where all of us will end up for the next 1,000 years? All of us?
Compost, or wood chips.
not wood chips, but in a garden. And here's the wording. It's in Joel chapter 4. And everyone will be under their own vine and under their own fig tree. Everyone. He's putting us back in the garden because we should have never left.
Right.
It's the most natural place to have a relationship with God because He shows up there. And everything about Him is visible. It's so cool.
At what point in your life did you really grasp all these concepts? Was it
when I went out to the woods and asked God how to grow? He says, "Come." When He showed me how to grow trees without water, that's when my whole life changed. Prior to that, I'm reading books. I'm in the natural mind, but that day changed my whole reality, and I started talking to God.
And before that point, would you say that you had a close relationship with God?
It was close.
Kind of
It was close, but it was distant. You know, I didn't think you could hear. You know, He didn't talk to me, and I didn't know how to hear. And it took me years to figure out how to hear. And my wife helped me. She got this teaching by this guy, Mark Verkler, How to Hear the Voice of God. And he made one statement that changed my life. God's voice comes as a spontaneous thought. So I'm looking for a still small voice. I don't hear any voice. But when he said spontaneous thought, it just opened up to me. God's been speaking to me my whole life. I just didn't notice. Spontaneous thought. It's huge. And you know, you see this scripture 3 times in the Bible. 3 times, first in Psalms and twice in Hebrews. Today, if you hear His voice, harden not your heart. Today is very present tense. God is speaking to us every day. And how we harden our heart is we don't listen, we're preoccupied, we have an agenda, and we don't pay attention. We just pass it off. Spontaneous thought, ignore it. But I love hearing from God. He's awesome. He has such great ideas. And He's really cool to talk to. You know, and so I just enjoy conversing with God and talking to Him because He's the best.
Yep.
So, all my trees are dwarf trees. Do you know how dwarf trees are made? You know how they're created?
Do you just prune them? I mean, is it
No, they're dwarf trees. You see
Oh.
this tree right here?
Yeah.
This is obviously not a dwarf.
Okay.
Cherry
Got it.
trees
Yeah,
can't be made
got
dwarf.
it.
But my apples are all dwarf trees. See, like this tree is like 41 years old, but you know, but I'm still maintaining it. How they create dwarf trees is they find a rootstock that doesn't naturally develop roots, has a small root system, a plant. And they'll graft into that, and by having a small root system, that will ensure the tree never gets big because the roots never spread, it can't eat well. But you know, in Psalm chapter 2, it says that God laughs. And God laughs at the concept of a dwarf tree. Let me show you, this is so awesome. I love God. He has a sense of humor, and He laughs at the concept of a dwarf tree. This is powerful. Just follow me right here. I want to show you something really cool.
Before you go, I see the woodpeckers have made themselves handy.
And the poor woodpeckers worked so hard because I had no bugs in my tree, and they got nothing. A lot of work for nothing.
That is woodpecker.
It's woodpecker damage.
Oh, interesting.
But it didn't hurt my tree.
Yeah.
So what about sapsuckers? Do you have them?
I don't even know what you know, I don't even care. Here's what my sense is. When you have healthy plants, there's no challenge. Nothing challenges them. I had an older man came from Italy. It was he was such a cool experience having him. You could tell by looking at his skin, he'd been gardening and farming his whole life. He had that look. But Italians are not subtle. They're not quiet. And this guy's in my face. Everything I was saying, you can't do that. That won't work. I says, well, come here and look. You know. He says, well, I guess you're doing it. You know. And when I showed him this changed his life. I says, you see that? Come over here. I'll just show it to you. You see this root sucker coming up over here, next to this apple tree right there?
Yes. Yes.
You know where that's coming from? See that plum tree over there with the purple plums?
Yeah.
That's 30-foot radius, not diameter. 30-foot radius from the trunk, I'm having roots develop. On a dwarf tree. So this guy's loud. He's saying, that's impossible. The roots only go as far as the drip line. And so he snapped off a branch, he walked over there, and he stands with his mouth wide open. He says, I can't believe it. That's where it's coming from. And you could see on his visage, on his face, that he realized he'd been struggling his whole life under the effect of lies. It blew his mind. All my life I've been working hard. I didn't need to. This is so amazing. This is so simple. It was really interesting to see. Like he got it. Like he couldn't deny it. All the books say as far as the drip line, but this is 30 feet, and it's there. You can't deny the evidence. It's awesome.
The way these branches.
Well, that's all I have for this video. Bang around that bell icon if you want to be notified when new videos come out. Call us on the hotline if you have comments or questions and want to be featured in an upcoming video. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe. Check us out on the website, and we'll see you guys on the next one.